2026, I think, really is going to be a year that it's going to be the year of housing at the federal, state, and
How come? Why is
level.
that? What's so monumental?
The crisis has finally gotten to this point where people have to act. Elected officials cannot play politics with affordable housing crisis that is happening not in red areas exclusively, not in blue areas, everywhere across the country.
Welcome to Building Connection, a podcast from Habitat for Humanity of Greater Memphis. I'm Dwayne Spencer, President and CEO. I've been with Memphis Habitat now for more than 24 years. Every day, my team and I focus on making affordable, healthy housing a reality for more people in our community through affordable mortgages, home construction, and home repairs for older adults. In my daily work, I often think about the connection between housing and so many other issues. The reality is, housing, your home, is connected to everything. Sometimes it just takes a little conversation to uncover it. With each episode, our guest and I will discuss the powerful impact of home. We'll explore a variety of topics. Housing, of course, health, wealth, education, safety. But we'll always bring it back to home. The desire for a home, a place of security, rest, and renewal, connects us all. So let's connect. Today on Building Connection, I'm joined by one of my colleagues here at Memphis Habitat, Zachary Amos, who serves as our Associate Director of Advocacy and Public Policy. Zach first joined Habitat in 2023 after having worked for almost a decade in electoral and land use campaigns around the country. In his role, Zach works to position Memphis Habitat as a leading voice for affordable housing, advocating for policies and collaborating with officials to make the greater Memphis area a place where everyone has a safe, decent place to call home. He serves on national habitat advocacy advisory groups, presents at both state and national habitat conferences, and shares his expertise with other habitat affiliates. In 2024, Zach received the Rookie of the Year award from Habitat for Humanity Tennessee, way to go. And last year, he was named one of Greater Memphis Chamber's Next Gen Award winners. That's a mouthful. But joining 9 other young professionals who are helping shape Memphis's next chapter. So, Zach, very happy that you're joining me today. Welcome to Building Connection.
Thanks for having me.
We always said we were going to do this, right? So here we are.
There we are.
All right. So I always like to start by learning a little bit more about my guests. So you joined us in 2024. Seems like a long time ago.
2023, actually.
Oh, 2023.
Even longer.
Okay. Well then, thanks for correcting me there. So 2023. So talk just a little bit about your background and really what brought you to Habitat.
I actually don't know if you know this, but my grandparents were home builders out in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so housing has always kind of been a part of the family story.
Awesome.
I really got brought to Habitat for Humanity through a lot of my work post-college. When I graduated from college, I really wanted to give back in some sort of way. And at first, that way was working on, as you mentioned, electoral campaigns around the country. I thought that this was the best way for me at that time in my life to really drive impact and help advocate for candidates or policies that I thought were going to be the best thing for Americans in the future. And I did that for many years, and after a while I realized this impact is not really intentional. It is very ethereal, it is very general. I wasn't getting a sense of fulfillment from working in this general electoral landscape. You may work for somebody, they may get elected, they may do the things that you might want them to do. They might not.
Sure.
And a lot of that is out of their control. And so I wanted an opportunity to take those same skills, take that same knowledge, and really feel an impact on a personal level. And there is no better place to do that than at Habitat for Humanity.
So what about our mission really appealed to you?
Well, I think homes, community, and hope is something that anybody can get behind. And the impact of taking somebody from a housing cost burden situation into a stable, safe place to live, that really gives a person the best chance to become the best version of themselves. I always felt like I've been incredibly lucky in life to have a great family life, a great home, and I never had to think about those challenges. And so when given the opportunity to work for an organization that helps people get to a situation where they and their children can have a childhood that was more like mine, I really wanted to take that opportunity.
That's awesome. We're happy you're here. Very happy. So I'm going to go back and quote you, okay? So you said this when you were being interviewed for your Next Gen win with the chamber. So you said, "I believe we're all gardeners in this city. Some plants have taken root. Institutions, culture, moments of progress, but there are also seeds in the soil we haven't yet discovered. Our job is to nourish the ground, to believe in what's possible, and to keep showing up for one another." That's a beautiful quote. Expound on it for me.
Yeah, I really do think our mission as people who live in a society and who live in a city like Memphis that has so many roots in community, it is our job to take care of those that are in our community, whether we know them or not.
Yeah.
It really is our duty as humans, Americans, Memphians, to do the best that we can to make sure that we're creating an environment that allows anybody to become the best versions of themselves. I think that's what is the really exciting part about housing, too. When someone gets a 0% interest mortgage and they are now in a place that they are not cost burdened by their housing, they have so many more resources to do other things that we never would have expected. They might start engaging in a artistic hobby that they never would have had the time or money to ahead of time. Many of our homeowners can change their children's educational futures.
Definitely.
With those savings. And some may even start their own business.
Yep.
And to me, that is the real point of being the gardener of a city, is really making sure that all of the underlying aspects of what makes our society are as best as they can possibly be, so that people can be the best versions of themselves.
And I love that because it's sort of what grounds us in the work, just the idea of your quote and your expounding on it. But then there's the actual work that has to happen. The advocacy, right? The talking to our legislators and having them hear us. And so, you and I were just doing that. And we were just attending what we call Habitat on the Hill, which is our annual advocacy conference, and where we learn from our peers, we share with them, and we visit with members of Congress. And so I like to dig into advocacy and policy at the federal level for just a bit, and then we'll drill down to the state and local, if that's okay. So as we discussed a lot in DC, we literally just got back yesterday from our trip, and there are currently 2 bipartisan pieces of legislation, one in the Senate and one in the House. Talk a little bit about each of those, sort of the similarities and what's different about them and what we need to be doing to sort of get them to come together.
Yeah, 2026, I think, really is going to be a year that it's going to be the year of housing at the federal, state, and
how come? Why is
level.
that? What's so monumental?
The crisis has finally gotten to this point where people have to act. Elected officials cannot play politics with affordable housing crisis that is happening not in red areas exclusively, not in blue areas, everywhere across the country. And at the federal level, I think those...
So it's bipartisan, very bipartisan.
It is very bipartisan. You mentioned a couple pieces of federal legislation.
Yes.
One was passed very recently called the Housing for the 21st Century Act The vote on that bill was 390-9. There is almost
That's
nothing.
impressive.
Yeah, there is almost nothing in the U.S. Congress that passes with that amount of bipartisanship. And again, that is an acknowledgement of the real tangible struggles that people are facing all around the country. This bill and its sister bill in the Senate, the Road to Housing Act, the main focus of these bills is regulatory reform, particularly around housing and urban development programs, along with U.S. Department of Agriculture programs. And a lot of these things are not massive game changers. It's not like new forms of money coming in, but it is a real refresh of a lot of these programs. We heard this week that this is the most significant housing package since 1992. And I know you may not want to hear this, but that means it's the most significant housing package of my lifetime.
There you go. You just had to throw that in there, didn't you?
I know, I did. But these are pretty significant housing bills that there are a couple things that overlap within them. For example, one thing that we struggle with a lot is environmental reviews on urban infill developments. One of the bills in this package in both the House and the Senate would dramatically streamline those approval processes, allowing for shorter build times, shorter wait times, frankly, as we're waiting to get those environmental reviews done. It's not just in urban environments. Like I was mentioning, there are significant updates to U.S. Department of Agriculture programs, which I did not really know until coming to this job, but the Department of Agriculture is really the department that is the biggest influencer in housing in rural areas. It's not necessarily housing in urban development.
Yes.
And so updating these programs is really going to help a lot of our rural affiliates across the country as well.
Awesome. So, of course, there are other things we advocate for annually. And one of them is the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act, a mouthful, right? And the Homeownership Supply Accelerator. So tell us a little bit more about those two policy items, Zach.
The Neighborhood Homes Investment Act.
NHIA.
The NHIA has been around for a couple years now. It's been introduced in, I think, the past 3 Congresses.
It's just sitting there at this moment, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the focus right now has been on the package that we were just talking about, the Housing of the 21st Century Act, because the NHIA is a significantly bigger federal program. It is designed to mirror the low-income housing tax credit.
So it's separate from these, or is it coupled under them?
It is separate.
Okay.
It is its separate standalone bill as it stands right now. Maybe one day it gets incorporated into one of these larger packages, but for right now, it's its own standalone bill. It is designed to mirror the low-income housing tax credit.
Yes.
Which
is mostly it's a rental thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It is a rental tax credit.
Yes.
It is often attributed as the most successful tax credit program in the federal government.
Okay.
The design of that tax program is to get large-scale multifamily developers to set aside a portion of their units as affordable rental units. And when they meet that certain threshold, then they get this tax credit from the federal government. The NHIA works in a similar fashion, but it is a little bit more flexible. The way that we would use it here in Memphis is...
And is it focused on home ownership? Is that a true statement?
The NHIA is specifically a home ownership-focused tax credit program. So you could take the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act tax credit. You could have a large development and have a portion of the homes as being specifically affordable for sale homes, and you could gain access to this credit. You could also use it, likely how we would use it, and fund different gaps in the construction process. And so, as you know, one of the biggest issues we face here in the city of Memphis is appraisal gaps.
Correct.
The cost to build the unit is significantly higher than the ultimate appraisal price.
Which is what we have to sell it for.
Exactly. And so this tax credit could theoretically plug the gap that we see in those costs. There is a similar program at the state level that does this. And that program is budgeted for about $3 million annually that can be used across the state at the state level. The Neighborhood Homes Investment Act, instead of having $3 million set aside for that program, The NHIA would provide us $35 million for the state to distribute.
Oh, for the state?
For the state to distribute across the entire
So
state.
nationally, it must be huge, the proposed amount.
Dramatic.
Okay.
And again, these are tax credit programs. This would not require essentially new spending from the government. It would just state that they would not be receiving as much.
I see.
From the tax program. But that's the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act. The Homeownership Supply Accelerator is a very exciting thing. It is the first time that Habitat as an organization is actually taking the lead on a federal policy proposal. In the past, we have always been associated with organizations or coalitions that are the leads on these proposals. This is the first time where Habitat is really taking the lead. This is in the early stages. It's going to be a long road, as any bill in Congress has. But the goal for this is to create a flexible, low-cost financing mechanism for specifically home ownership across the country, designed to be flexible enough to meet local needs while substantial enough to actually get more housing built. This more of the starter home housing built that officials on both sides of the aisle are wanting to see in their communities.
Fantastic. I'd love to see both of those actually come to fruition, right?
Me too.
What's the arc of time, do you think, on these?
I mean, with neighborhood homes, it is hard to say.
Because it's been out there a couple of years already.
It has been out a couple of years already. I would say anywhere from 6 to 10 years is probably what we're looking at in terms of a timeline.
Okay.
It all depends on the environment.
Yeah.
Is the Congress and the administration looking for a new tax credit program? Are they looking for more spending? Are they looking to pull back?
But because where we started and we emphasized the 21st century bill and the climate around affordable home ownership or housing in general, maybe. Let's just hope that these can get some traction as well, right? Yeah. So that was federal. Let's bring it a little more local. Tennessee, Shelby County, and Memphis. So what's going on at the state and local level when it comes to policies that could impact housing?
So again, 2026, big year for housing, even at the state level as well.
Yep.
Governor Lee recently had his State of the State address and he unveils his state budget. This is his last state budget as he's term limited this year. He brought back a proposal that he included in last year's budget, which is a $30 million starter home revolving loan fund.
Okay.
This is a loan fund that is modeled off of a program from Oklahoma. The big thing about this program is that the state would help finance loans at a 0% rate. These construction loans, these 0% construction loans would be used to help build starter homes, as they define as 1,200 to 1,500 square foot homes that are specifically built for owner occupation.
Yes.
These are not built to be rented out into the future. They are built for owner occupancy. We are really excited about this program. There is a lot of synergy, I think, with a 0% construction loan and Habitat's 0% interest mortgage. I've been lucky enough to actually have some conversations with Habitat Oklahoma City that has used this program.
Okay.
And we think, based on their assessments and our own internal assessments, it would save us about $5,000 per home that we build. Now, we hope to build 25 to 30 homes a year here in Memphis, and so you can do quick back of the napkin math. It could save us about $125,000 to $150,000 a year, which helps us scale as an organization and serve even more families here in Memphis and the greater Memphis area. You could expand this to across the entire state of Tennessee. Last year, Habitat affiliates across the state built 125 new homes. Again, if we count on about $5,000 of saving per home, that's $625,000 for organizations that can serve more folks, and we can better meet the affordable housing crisis that we see in this moment.
Yes.
So that is what's happening on the state level. It's very exciting. Now, what we have to do is make sure that state legislators keep that program in the governor's budget.
Yes.
They can take it out. They can reappropriate that money for different things. But we're really hoping that they keep it in there. This is a very responsible, fiscally sound and appropriate state policy, I think.
And so before you get to local, Shelby or Memphis, I was sort of fascinated and intrigued at the conference. People were using the term starter home, which we've heard for forever, right? I had not referred to Habitat homes as starter homes, and I had not used that language in all of the years that I've worked here. But I also realized that the language, your choice of words, how you communicate with a policymaker, it really matters. And it feels like there is some opportunity to sort of lean into that so that the legislator sort of identifies who we are with whatever this, starter home, whatever that looks like in their minds, which gets us a little bit farther along the way, don't you think? It's sort of like, oh, you're in this group.
Yes, absolutely.
I know, so I kind of know who you are, Habitat, right?
Yes, and I think especially when you've got a brand that's as big as Habitat is, I think it's important when we go into these meetings with elected officials, when we're using that starter home language, we're talking about builders other than us. And so we recognize that we exist in a space. We provide a very unique product in that space, particularly with our 0% interest mortgage. But the physical structures that we build are built by many builders who could benefit from the programs that we advocate for. And so I think it's a give and take, right? It's important for us to use our brand, not just to advocate for things that would benefit us as a Habitat affiliate network, but
so the policies are much broader. Serve a much broader audience.
Exactly.
Definitely. Okay. So here in Memphis, Shelby County, anything we want to talk about? What's happening?
2026 is the year of housing.
All the way down to the local level.
All the way down to the local level.
Okay.
This year, the city of Memphis is doing a lot of different things. Obviously, we know Mayor Young, who before he became mayor of Memphis was the director of housing and community development with the city. He has his master's in urban planning.
Yep. He
is as qualified of a housing mayor that we may have ever had.
I love it. Housing mayor.
He's a housing mayor. He had his State of the City address very, very recently where he gave a very ambitious goal of he wants 10,000 new affordable and market rate units of housing in the city of Memphis.
All right.
That's going to be a mix of single family.
It's aggressive.
It's very aggressive. And and I would trust him more than anybody else to figure out ways to make that happen. They're already starting to do a lot of things. They've made some changes to the Unified Development Code, which very simply is permits, processes for how you build a home.
Right.
They're going to be undergoing a couple zoning changes throughout the city where they want to perhaps increase a little bit more flexibility in what types of housing can be built in certain areas. And they are looking for ways to increase the amount of funding that goes into the city's Affordable Housing Trust. In Memphis, the Affordable Housing Trust has only been around since about 2017. It hasn't been around that long. And its funding varies year to year. There's not a dedicated source of funding for the city's Affordable Housing Trust. On average, it can be anywhere from $5 million to $10 million a year. Compare that with Nashville. Nashville's Affordable Housing Trust is closer to $30 million a year. And so I think the mayor recognizes that this is a pretty good local vehicle for funding construction, rehabilitation of homes, repairs of homes as well. And he wants to increase the funding that goes to that vehicle. So again, there are a lot of things that are happening at the city level as well. And again, we've got a great mayor that should be able to lead us in the right direction.
And I should say they're great supporters of Memphis Habitat's work, and we're grateful to them. But you mentioned appraisals a few minutes ago. Let's talk a little bit more about that and how sort of we differ in Memphis versus other cities, even right here in Tennessee, West Tennessee versus East Tennessee. And we've got these sort of depressed appraisal values. Just share with the audience a little bit about that and why it's such a challenge for us.
Yeah, the problems that we face in Memphis are unique, I think. When we go to conferences and we're talking about when we say the word
And we're saying Memphis as in city proper.
Yes.
Because this phenomena is not necessarily in the suburban areas.
No, certainly not. In Memphis proper, we reference appraisal gaps a lot. Whenever I go to Habitat conferences at the state or the national level and I mention appraisal gaps, they assume that that is the cost to build is at $200,000, but then the appraisal comes in at $270,000.
Which is the case for some, markets.
For a lot of markets, particularly Nashville, a lot of your bigger cities,
Yes.
That is the problem that they face. And so the people that they serve don't make enough money to afford that $270,000 home.
Yes.
Our problem is the opposite. We may build for $200,000, but the appraisal comes in at $170,000.
Exactly right.
That is based on a lot of different things. It's based on the underlying value of the land itself. It's based on sort of baked in appraisal biases from the way that we do assessments. And it's also based on, frankly, we are usually the only new construction builders in the communities that we build in. So there's not a lot to compare us to. And so since we're the first ones coming back to these communities to build in, we kind of get dinged for it.
Yeah.
And that is really why, it is really important for the Tennessee Housing Authority to have brought back their appraisal gap financing program. City officials talk about this a lot, how we have to get a lot of these lots in the city activated. We have to find ways to get housing in core neighborhoods to sort of stabilize the property values in those areas, and that will then invite the for-profit builders to come back in and really accelerate the amount of growth. And appraisals are really important too, because if you can stabilize these areas, that is when businesses are going to come in. Businesses care about beds and heads. How many people, and in a certain amount of area, they want to be able to maximize their profits based on how many people are living in a certain area. Memphis is a famously spread out city. The mayor mentioned this in his State of the City address, and this is something that I've been talking about with policymakers and folks in the industry here locally for years now. The city of Memphis is about 615,000 people, give or take, spread over 339 square miles. In comparison, the island of Manhattan is about 330 square miles. 6 million people live there.
Density.
Our peer cities, Atlanta, Detroit, St. Louis, they have about the same population as we do, but those cities are closer to 130 square miles. And so their tax base is spread out over a larger distance, and the city it's hard to pay for all the different services that have to go over a wide geographic area. And so what has happened as the core neighborhoods have hollowed out in their value and have lowered in their appraisals, people have gone further out into the city, or further out into the county, I should say.
Yes.
And over time, this has led to the city extending services out into those areas and not being able to afford them long term.
Yes, that's right.
And so I think the mayor's goal of wanting to build upwards, not outwards, is incredibly timely. It is incredibly pertinent. And we recognize that at Habitat as well. I know this year we are building our first single-family attached homes, or in the upcoming years, I should say. We're building this brand new product, which it is shocking to me. That product would have been illegal under the zoning code just about 5 years ago. It just simply was not allowed.
Right.
And so policy is slowly changing to get where you can have more density in these areas to really get the best possible use of the land that is there. Hopefully that means that the appraisals turn around in a lot of these areas, and again, inviting more investment and creating a upward cycle as opposed to a downward pressure cycle in a lot of these communities.
I mean, thank you for sharing that, and it's extremely important for our audience, and especially if any donor who's watching and listening. For us, the appraisal gap affects our own sustainability, and so we've estimated that over the last 10 or 12 years, we have not collected up to $6 million because if we have built a home for a cost of $180,000 and it's appraising for $150,000, that is what we're selling it to the buyer for. And so there is nothing that's really filling that $30,000 gap. So Bill, I was having a conversation with a donor and explaining it to him, and finally he said back to me, so every time you build, you lose. And I thought, finally, somebody's really getting this. And I'm very grateful to Ralph Perry and the folks at THDA for bringing back the appraisal gap program, which we are going to absolutely be taking advantage of.
And I think one common refrain or one common response I get when I talk about our appraisal gap program is, well, why are you guys building there? If you're losing so much, why are you going to build in those areas? And the answer that I always give is, the people who live in these communities are worth investing in. It is simply the appraisal process that is letting them down.
Yeah, right.
And if we are not building in these areas, nobody else will. The ills that affect the city of Memphis do not change unless we continue to do the work that we do. We cannot expect these communities to change if nobody is willing to invest in them.
Well, and if the mayor is going to be successful with his goal of the 10,000 units, and it's going to be in the city proper, then that means that there's going to have to be much more activity in and around the places where we're already working.
That's right.
So adjusting any policies that make it easier for us and other builders is certainly going to make sense. There's been a lot of great information.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
Of course.
Want to find great deals, declutter your home, and make a difference in Memphis? Shop or donate at your local Habitat for Humanity Restore. Both Memphis Restores offer great deals on furniture, appliances, building materials, and more. Every purchase or donation helps Habitat partner with local home buyers to build and repair safe, affordable homes. Together, we build homes, communities, and hope. Visit memphisrestore.com or follow us on social media to find your closest Habitat Restore today.
All right, Zach. So we're now at our last segment, which we call Bring It Back to Home. So I'm going to ask you the same series of questions we always ask our guests, and you're free to answer them however you like. It can be from your personal viewpoint, professional, or a combination of both. So you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's do it. So, easy one first. Or maybe not. What does home mean to you? Or what do you think about when you hear the word home?
I think home is everything. I say this a lot to people that I know, again, professionally and personally. Access to safe, affordable, and decent housing is foundational to every other public policy objective a society has. Housing is often people's biggest expense. It is also often, if they're a homeowner, it's their biggest asset. And it is also, frankly, just where they spend most of their time.
Yes.
If you want to improve a child's education, you need to make sure that they're eating enough food, they're getting a good night's sleep, and they can safely get to school. That is a very important way of how to raise a child's educational outcomes. If you want to improve the economic activity of an area, you have to make sure there's more disposable income. Again, people's number one expense is usually their housing costs. So if you can lower those costs and create more disposable income in a community, businesses will fill that need. They will be able to provide more goods and services that a community has to have to survive. So home is everything. And home is obviously one house itself. It's also the community that it's in. Being able to interact with your neighbors and being able to safely get to where you need to go is crucial for not just economic well-being, but your personal well-being.
Yes.
And so I think home is everything.
Well, a few weeks ago when Jessica interviewed me and asked me that question, I said something like home is refuge and safety. And then in the moment while I was talking, I was thinking about, the billions of people around the world who don't have that. Yeah. And then all of the other tertiary benefits that compound the beauty of home, which you just talked about, education, financial stability, all of that. So it is foundational.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. So my second question is one I think you'll be excited about. It has a few parameters. So you get to think about this one as big or small or as, however you like. If there were no limitations, funding, capacity, all of that, how would you solve the housing crisis? You can make it local, you can make it worldwide, as I've sort of put us on the global stage here with that comment.
I don't know if I can do it worldwide. I think that's a bit
back home.
A bit above my.
Oh yeah, this is the bring it back home segment. Bring it back home.
Well,
in Memphis, then.
I do think in the city of Memphis, if I could wave a magic wand, which is something that I think about a lot, I often ask elected officials, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you do? So now you're asking me, and it's, and I think if I could wave a magic wand, I think there has to be a fundamental shift in how we value land, and how we value, and then how we subsequently tax it, right? The city of Memphis is suffering from declining population and an increase in vacancy. We are losing a lot of high net worth Memphians to the suburbs.
Correct.
Moving out to places, again, which is the right choice for them to individually make. It's important for us to...
You have to make the core attractive again.
Yes. We have to make sure that that individual choice leads people back to the city of Memphis. Luckily enough, there's actually a pretty good example of an American city that had this same problem and found its way out of it. In the year 2000, the city of Philadelphia was suffering from a declining population, and they had over 50,000 vacant lots. The city of Philadelphia said, this is completely unsustainable. We're losing people to New Jersey. We're losing people to the suburbs.
Yes.
We can't sustain the public services that we have. So what they did is they took all of those 50,000 vacant lots within the city, and they said, for the next 10 years, we are not going to tax the structures on those lots. And they coupled...
Doesn't that mean they're losing money?
So that's the really interesting point.
Okay, yeah.
They're not losing any money.
Okay.
They're still going to be taking in the same amount of taxes that they're already getting from this vacant lot. But the economic equation, right, they're not getting taxes from the structure that is put on the lot. So their income was, their tax revenue was going to be the same from that piece of lot. But they were
But it attracts activity.
It attracts that investment, and they're changing the economic equation. If I am thinking about building on one of these lots, the appraisal might be underwater. It might be in a neighborhood that's not, as rosy as some of the suburbs. But if I know I'm not going to be paying taxes, or my homeowner or the ultimate buyer is not going to be paying taxes on this property for the next 10 years, what does that do to the sales price? It makes it go up. And so it makes it more attractive for somebody to actually build on that lot, because they will get their investment back because you've created a better economic situation for that parcel. They coupled this abatement by also saying, if you think you can take this single family lot that's vacant and build a duplex, we're going to let you do that. They allowed for much more flexibility on what people could build on these lots. All in all, the program worked. From 2000 to 2023, the city of Philadelphia saw 60,000 new units of housing.
60,000.
60,000 over 23 years was built in the city of Philadelphia, all without government funding.
So they just delayed the additional revenue.
Exactly. And they've changed the program recently to say that, you can have a 5-year abatement, and then it waterfalls upward.
Yes.
So you pay 20% of the structure's value in year 6, 40, 60, so on and so forth. I think this is a program that can really be used here in the city of Memphis. This is something that has a proven track record in another American city, and especially now that we have a little bit more flexible housing types that are allowed within the city of Memphis, like we talked about earlier.
Yes.
Now the city of Memphis is ready to have this kind of program to really open the floodgates to get those 10,000 units that the mayor really wants.
It's going to take innovation to get there, right?
Exactly. So if I could wave a magic wand, that's what I would do. Now that magic wand would probably have to get things done at the city, the county, maybe even the state level. But you gave me a magic wand, so
There you
I
go.
wanted to work a little magic.
Work your wizardry. How do you say that? I love it. Thank you. I love that. Okay, so in keeping with our podcast theme, which is building connection, what is one connection point or takeaway, or just one thing you'd want the audience to take away from our conversation today? We talked about a lot of things. What if you had to narrow it down?
I would say be excited about housing this year. I think there is a lot of bipartisan momentum at multiple levels of government to really take decisive action to alleviate this crisis. It's not going to happen on its own. We shouldn't just say, oh, it's great, let's put it on autopilot and it'll take care of itself. But I think a takeaway should be, if you've never been invested in advocacy, now is the time where it's going to be the most powerful, because there is general consensus on both sides of the aisle that this is a problem, and there is a general consensus on solutions. And now they need the courage from the populace to actually make it a priority and make sure that it is passed at the federal, state, and local level. So that's the big takeaway.
Yes.
Be optimistic and be active in your advocacy.
And when we talk about advocacy, I've always complained to you and others that it seems very slow. It's a slow moving train. But you always have a nice response to it. It isn't going to make it any faster, but what do you tell me about advocacy and how it works?
It is a long game,
Yeah.
right? Like you're shaping how people view an issue. We didn't get to this optimistic year in just a couple months.
Yes.
We got to it over years and years and years of talking about the problems that not only we see here in Memphis, but the problems that people face with housing all across the country. It's funny, I remember last year I wrote an op-ed about the appraisal gaps that we face. I wrote this op-ed in the Daily Memphian. And after Mayor Young's State of the City address, I had a couple city staffers reach out to me and say, they sent me an article that was covering the speech, and they said, oh, I saw the mayor was talking about appraisal gaps, and I immediately thought of you. That, to me, is a sign of how that consistent drumbeat of advocacy really can lead to a bigger moment and makes you prepared for when the opportunity arises.
That's right.
To really take action and to really get something done.
That's fantastic. We've got one last question for you.
Okay.
I don't know if it's not a question. It's a fill in the blank. Blank starts with a home.
A future. What somebody can be, what somebody can achieve, starts with their home.
Fantastic. I love it. I'm so happy that you're on our team, Zach.
Me too. I'm
Thank you
happy
so
to be
much.
here.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Dwayne.
All right. Thanks again to my guest, Zach Amos. I'll be back soon with more episodes. As always, thank you for tuning in to Building Connection. Please follow us, share, or leave us a review. You can also email us your feedback or suggestions for future guests at podcast@memphishabitat.com. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Building Connection, a podcast from Habitat for Humanity of Greater Memphis. Our executive producer is Jessica Horde, VP of Brand Strategy. This podcast is produced by Forever Ready Productions, a mission-driven production company headquartered right here in Memphis. They tell stories that inspire action, believing that together we can build collective purpose and impact. Since 1983, Habitat for Humanity of Greater Memphis has worked to help more people in the Memphis area access decent, affordable housing through new homes, affordable mortgages, and home repairs. Every safe, affordable home sparks wider change, leading to better health, education and well-being, more economic growth, and less poverty. Healthy communities, intergenerational wealth, peace of mind, and the ability to focus on what matters most. It all starts with the home. To learn more about Memphis Habitat, sign up for our newsletter and get involved. Visit memphishabitat.com. Together, we can build homes, communities, and hope.